Hey, Sticky Note listeners. This is your host, Erika Washington. Many of you know my good friend Derek Washington. He's been on the show a few times. And recently, in a serendipitous fashion, we both had the same idea. We wanted to talk about death, specifically the death of our mothers. Derek's mother passed away just a little over a month ago. And the 9th anniversary of my mother's death is this week. So, as usual, we'll have our banter about food and politics, and Derek will probably say something obnoxious, but we'll also unpack what it means to be adult orphans. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. Booze conversation.
Yeah. I am wearing my myrtle, my man girdle. And you know what's wrong with it?
What?
It's like that time I had sex with a woman. It's not as tight as I expected it to be.
I hate you so much. I don't know that I even knew that you ever actually had sex with a woman.
That's because I didn't do it again.
Just once? It was just
that's
one
all
time.
I needed.
How old were you?
17.
Oh, and you were like...
But
you liked her.
Oh, yeah. It was my girlfriend.
Right, so you were like, yeah.
Her dad had a yacht. Yeah.
So you liked her, or
did
you
like
liked
her.
the yacht?
I did like her, but we actually had to have 2 different dates on prom night, my junior prom. So, because her parents couldn't know that she went with me. So our Swedish exchange friend, Stefan, played me in her picture. So she had 2 sets of pictures. Yeah.
Okay, we gotta do a little cheers or something.
Here's darling.
Cheers to life.
L'chaim.
And that thing. I didn't realize you were Jewish today.
Always. Hey. Do you taste that?
What?
It tastes like salt. We finally got salt. It totally tastes like... mine is full of salt.
I think you just have salt in your mouth now.
Oh, salty.
That's it. You're salty.
I'm salty. So are we going to talk about... Wow.
I think that was the start.
Yeah.
So I have to preface this by saying that this is Sticky Notes on the fly. So, we've had plenty of Sticky Note conversations, and you've been on, and people have heard your voice, but they've not seen you in person or live in living color. So here you are, in the flesh, and we are sitting on the strip, which is also something that you and I don't do. And we're sitting on the strip in a hotel room, and outside is the Vegas ruckus, all the things that are happening.
Vegas.
So you're going to hear random
noises. It's a Golden Knights finals game.
It is, because hockey, I can't say sports balls because it's not a ball. They use pucks. So
correct.
So what do I don't know. Everything is sports balls to me.
Well, they have like a super cup or something. That's what we're trying to get.
The Stanley Cup.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we get the Stanley Cup. So anyway, they're out there, and so every time they score, it makes that loud noise.
Me too.
So anyway, so you're gonna hear some thumping. You're gonna hear Vegas in the background. So it's whatever.
Salt.
Okay, you taste salt. I don't taste salt.
It actually is fine with the salt. I don't know.
Okay, maybe you like a salty wine.
I do.
But this is a Barolo. It's a nice wine. It's a very heavy wine. People don't usually like Barolos unless they really like wine.
I like it.
Just so you know. It's very Italian.
Okay, it's very fun.
So I went to Carson City like 2 weeks ago. Right.
Explain what Carson City is.
Carson City is the capital of Nevada. Ooh. It's where laws are made.
Laws.
All the laws. Some of the laws.
It's where corruption
Many of the
happens.
laws. It's Camp Carson. It's where a lot of shenanigans happen. And so there's a bill about paid leave that we've worked on paid leave as Make It Work for a number of years, but this is not our bill. But there's a bill about paid leave, so we want to be involved, and the bill's not great. Like, the bill is like low-key shitty. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't do what I need it to do. But that's where you get into this conundrum. It's like, do you support a bill because it will do something? Or do you throw the whole thing away?
Which is their whole point of putting out bills that are shitty, because they know that, well, am I going to take neck bones?
Yeah.
So
It's been a long time since I've had a neck bone.
And why? Because a neck bone is not a prime cut of meat.
Because there's no meat on it.
Thank you. So what did they give the slaves?
Neck bones.
Neck bones. They threw it out, and we got it, and we did the best we could with it.
And then people are like, dang, I love neck bones.
Yeah, but nobody loves this bill.
No, well, the bill, I think, is dead now. I think, and probably by the time anybody sees this, I think the bill is like dead, for sure. I'm almost positive it's dead. But that's probably more because it's just, nobody wants paid leave at all anyway. Like, even they don't want a shitty bill no more than they want a good bill. People just don't want nice things. They don't want people to have paid time off to take care of their family.
And why is that? Is it a Republican thing or is it a Democrat thing? Because we have a majority, right?
Yes.
Okay. So did all the Democrats vote for it?
I don't even know that it made it to a vote.
So somewhere along the line, some Democrats didn't do enough to get it going forward. But they will be the first to ask for our vote based on the fact that they support families, women, etc. So, crappy ass bill. Can we say crappy ass?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Crappy ass bill. Democrats couldn't even support it. Me, as an independent leaning Democrat, am not surprised. I'm not even disappointed at this point because
it's par for the course, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where if we were to put forth a really good bill, something that offered a policy that would help the majority of the people, because it's really hard to help every single person in every single circumstance that they have. But if we were able to offer something where people, because it's called earned paid sick days, right? It's not just like
right,
just
willy-nilly,
it out to
yeah.
anybody, right? So if you work, you're earning paid sick days.
Would a person who works at 7-Eleven been eligible for it?
No.
Of course.
Well, and that's the thing. So there's like this space, right? So it's usually where they exempt small businesses. Small businesses consists of 50 people or less employees,
So
right?
7-Eleven, no.
But 7-Elevens are franchised.
Right.
So then it's a matter of, do they count a 7-Eleven as,
No,
like, if
it would be
if
the
you just own
franchise,
one,
yeah.
you'd be like, yeah, no. But technically, but what if you own multiple? Most people own more than one.
Yeah.
Or like McDonald's, they own 3 or 4 McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you put it all together, you might have more than 50
But
employees.
I bet you each one of those McDonald's is a different LLC.
Yeah, I'm sure it's all separate. So that's what I mean. So there are ways to get around
Right.
and play that dance so that folks who work as many hours, or if they don't work enough hours, right? So if you are not technically full-time because you don't get 40, maybe you get 38 every single week or 37 every single
Whatever it is, they'll pick an hour like below it.
Yeah, they'd be like, you gotta go home.
So if the people, I won't call out the party, Democrats, if they were to put everything in a bill, and then instead of putting out a crappy bill and trying to get more later, why don't they put out a bill with everything in it and try to negotiate some out of it?
Well, I ain't the one to ask that question to because I've said that already. Like, why not start up here?
Yeah.
But if you start down here, it's just like, it shows that you don't have any standards. You're just like,
Right.
well, I'll just take whatever you give me.
Neck bones.
Yeah.
So, okay, tell me this. What's the point?
Of life?
Okay, we'll discuss that later. No, the point of even going through the shenanigans and the play acting of government. No, okay. Going back to Democrats, what is the point of saying you're this, that, and the other to get elected, and then turning around immediately and not doing it? Like immediately.
Well, I think some people think they are doing it. No, I really think that they think that they're doing it because they put forth something and they're like, well, we fought for this because I know we couldn't get this. Instead of doing something I know we can't get, I'm going to try to do something
And
I
then
think
not
we
get it.
can. But then they may not get it. But then also they feel like they fought for something. So it's like, let's fight for this small thing and feel like I can do something, but I'm not going to put forth something big and know I'm not going to get it. And even though I think to the outside world, it'd be like, yeah, they put forth this big thing. But it's like they already know. Well, I already know the governor's not going to do this. The governor already said they're not going to do this. Because there's all that backroom chatter of like, what the governor's not going to sign, you know, what the leadership is not interested in, what the lobbyists are ready to push back on.
And this is why no one votes. No, but see, MAGA, they sell hate. It's their brand and they live by it. They sell racism. They live by it. They sell anti-women things. They live by it. And they throw the most out there. They are like, you know what? We're going to deport all you pregnant, unmarried, almost brown people and you gone and done. We give a half-assed bill and then go, oh. And then we wonder why nobody votes. nobody votes Democrat, what are you selling? You know?
So what's the answer?
The answer is to get rid of all of the Democratic leadership. I said it, all of the Democratic leadership.
You know what state are you talking about?
I'm talking about state, but I'm talking about in
Federal?
general. I'm talking about in general, the heights of the Democratic Party, the leadership in each state. You know, at some point, hand it over to somebody else, because our state leadership is crap. Crap. I'll say it, I'll say it to her face. Crap. And this kind of stuff, we have a majority, bend it over, bang it.
We've had a majority for a while.
Right. So why are we not, and then they put up candidates where, who ever heard of that woman who ran for the lieutenant governor? No one ever heard of her.
Kate?
Not her, she was cool. This last time when they lost the 2 top statewide offices. It was exactly my point.
With the long brown hair.
Exactly my point. Who was she?
I think she was a teacher. Was she a teacher?
What's her name?
Oh, I
didn't know her name when she ran. Like when on the ballot.
Well, she was with Sisolak, though, right? That's what you're talking about. Yes, no, because I had a meeting with her, and
you don't remember her name.
I don't remember a lot of things.
Yeah, but
I have had a little while.
Nah, that's no excuse. So they put up these candidates and they expect people to vote for them. They don't excite the base with not fulfilling promises, with putting up crappy bills that they don't even push through. Like, there's no reason that we in Nevada, who, we had trans laws before anybody else did. We had loads of black politicians in good positions before anybody else did.
We had a women majority.
A women majority. So why is it that they think that we can't do stuff? Unless it's the old white consultocracy who tell them that they can't.
That's very possible. Well, some people have goals and ambitions to do something past whatever they're doing now.
So I can't be seen as having done something good.
Well, they don't want to be seen as done something radical.
Radical is what got MAGA in charge.
Yeah, no, I know. I believe that.
I am not a fan of, Bernie Sanders. I'm not a big fan.
You love Bernie.
However.
I was a Bernie bro.
You were. However.
Still is.
He is the only one I've seen that is still talking about the big things that actually people want, and we can do it.
Remember when you were like, why you like Bernie?
Yes, I remember.
Oh my God, Bernie Sanders. Why wouldn't you do that old white man?
I hate when you're right, because
if everybody would have got on the Bernie train when I was on the Bernie train.
You're not gracious.
I am full of grace.
Hail Mary.
Come with thee.
So anyway, let's go back to the bill, which I testified about.
You did testify to the bill. You testified on the bill to talk about why paid leave would be important, even though you would have been excluded too.
Yeah, because I'm a gig worker.
Right. And so gig workers are always excluded because they're 1099. Yeah. And so many things are going towards that way of 1099, right? Because it's also been this long push of everybody be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And everyone do their own thing.
And therefore, you don't get insurance, you don't get health benefits, you don't get this, you don't get that. Yeah. And but you got your own little job there.
Right. And you're your own boss.
You're your own boss. You set your own hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look at you setting your own hours. Setting all the hours that you're not getting paid so that you can't take care of people that you need to.
Right. I'm an independent.
Are you going to register as an independent?
I probably. No, because I want to be able to vote in the primary. If proposition or ballot question 3 had passed.
That was the ranked choice voting, right? Okay.
Then everybody would have been able to vote regardless of party.
Ranked choice voting.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I still don't understand it. All I know is I want it. But basically, everybody would have been able to vote in anybody's primary. And
you make a choice. Right. Your first choice, your second choice, your third choice, which I think is a great idea because sometimes you don't not like another candidate because you just like, I just don't like them at all. It's like, you know what? They're okay, but I prefer this one. Like, I'd love to have Erika as my mayor, but that Derek, yeah, he gonna be all right. So I'd take him. So you put him number 2. And then if there was somebody else, that would possibly be number 3. And that way there's an option there, right?
Yeah.
But there were so many people like, oh, no one's gonna understand it. No one's gonna understand how to rank things. I was like, but we do it every day. You do it in our head. Hell, you do it when you're on a dating app. All the time. You're like, maybe this one.
Yeah, this is true.
Maybe that one. No. Well, this one, though.
Open your private picture. This one.
I don't know anything about that.
No, you don't.
I don't.
You don't. I know you've never done that.
I've never done that.
Have you?
No.
Never mind. I'm not going to ask.
Okay. What were you going to ask?
If you'd ever sent a dick pic.
No. I've not ever sent one of those to anyone. Derek, I don't know if you know this or not. I know you know that I'm the most fabulous gay man that you've ever met.
Yeah, but I know you don't have any equipment.
I don't have an accoutrement in that way.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I got that. I got that.
I am still a better gay man than you are.
Me?
And many others.
Much better.
I don't know how you don't love Todrick. I don't know how you don't love Billy Porter. I don't know how you don't love
Wicked.
any Broadway musical. Like, don't you just want to, like, this dress makes me want to get up and do a little.
Like Can?
Yes. Exactly. A little rocket strut. I don't know if I can do it because my ankles are swollen, so I can't really do a rocket. Like Liza Minnelli and was it Vincent? It wasn't Vincent, was it?
Vincent Minnelli.
No, but it wasn't Vincent. Is that how you say his first name?
His first name is Vincent. Well, he had a young man.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. There was something there. Like
I like a musical. I don't like Broadway.
I feel like Liza Minnelli's last husband.
I'm tired of black gay men being presented as high heel wearing wannabe women in dresses on the red carpet. Oh, girl queen. I'm sick of it. And that is Billy Porter.
So you don't like men in dresses?
Hell no.
So there was just something about this. So because this is a great segue. Talk about Shannon Sharp. So one of the last Club Shay Shays, which is Shannon Sharp's podcast, he had Damon Wayans on, and it was a good episode.
Because Dan has the trans child, right?
No, that's his grandson, I think. Damon is the brother, is Keenan Ivory Wayans' brother.
Right.
Damon's son has a trans child.
Okay.
Because Damon is in his 60s.
That don't mean nothing going back to Shannon Sharp.
He's looking good.
Yeah, he is.
I know, I'm just saying.
All of them
But
do.
I'm just saying he got grown-ass kids.
Okay.
With grown-ass, now grandkids. Anyway, so Damon was on, and he was talking about comedy. And I think Shannon asked, do you have a problem with, like, men wearing dresses and whatever and all of that? And he was like, no, like, comedy is comedy. Like, if it's funny, it's funny. And he's like, a lot of other people did it. He named Dustin Hoffman.
Uncle Milty.
Uncle Milty, but he also named, what's his face, who? Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. So there are a lot of white men who also put on dresses for laughs, right? And so, but there is something within the black community where it's like, oh, well, a man puts on a dress just to be funny. He was like, I think Tyler Perry is funny in a dress.
Cat Williams started that crap, making it shameful.
I love Cat Williams.
When you go back to Cat Williams' interview, though,
which was a damn fine interview. Well, actually, I won't say that. Let me take that back. It was a very good performance of Cat Williams,
right?
Because it's not an interview, because Shannon Sharp doesn't know how to interview. He couldn't find a follow. He can't find a follow up if it was sitting right here close as his pillow.
But Cat Williams' interview, he said a lot of stuff, and everybody's like, oh yeah. But if you go back and watch it, he's a dumbass. He talked about he talked about the whole dress thing, and well, I wouldn't do it. Maybe you didn't get offered it. He talked a lot about the stuff he wouldn't do.
He just won't do it.
No, but he talked a lot about the stuff that he wouldn't do, but it made somebody else this huge star. And I'm like, maybe you just weren't offered these roles because they didn't want you for these roles. But he tried to make it seem like, well, I wouldn't put on a dress. Like Tim Allen is always talking about, oh, I'm a conservative, so they don't want to give me a show. But you always got a show. It just seems
he does always have a show.
Yeah, it seems to me a little disingenuous, the stuff, when you go back, and I guess when you watch it from a gay perspective, it came off very homophobic and very, I'm
A
bitter,
man wearing a dress for a comedic
right.
performance doesn't have anything to do with homosexuality.
Nothing, but they equate it.
Well, that's dumb.
That's a black male thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because there's this thing about masculinity, and I think that stems back from slavery.
It must, because if you look in the comments of anything that has a black person in it, the black people always thought, "Oh, he looks gay," and that could be about anything.
But I also think there's just probably a lot of trolls out there that are also. I firmly believe in that. The plants of like the Russians or whatever, and then they make these fake profiles and people say stuff
and sexy
then,
red,
and then you think that that this is what black people are thinking, and not to say some people aren't, but the majority of the people that I know don't give two shits about whether somebody is gay or straight or wears a dress or doesn't or any of that. There are some obvious homophobic people, but
after reading all those comments and stuff, you get more people who get into that mindset.
Well, yeah, because then they start thinking, well, maybe it is wrong. Right. It must be wrong. That might be why my wife left me. That might be why my boyfriend. But then, because then there's also this thing of, oh, well, all these black men are leaving black women to be gay. And so then it becomes this other thing, that the other reason why the black family is separated.
Right, it's a gay thing.
Right, and it's like, I don't think that I'm single because all black men want to be with other men.
Speaking of this, do you know who Boosie is?
Lil Boosie?
Boosie?
Lil Boosie, yeah.
Okay.
The rapper?
Is that what he does?
Yeah.
He's ugly. Okay, yeah, him.
He struggles with
attractiveness.
A little bit.
Yeah, he's ugly. So
but someone finds him, I'm sure, adorable.
Well, here's the thing.
Mother thinks he's adorable.
He is blowing up all over the internet, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know that when his son, so he's on that one of those Pop the Balloon shows or whatever?
It's not the Pop the Balloon,
but it's like that
he's
filmed
on his
in a
own
white
show.
Space. So
he's on a show that's filmed in a white space.
Yeah. So he's on with his son. Mm-hmm. And he's always trying to decide who his son is going to F.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, no, it's not weird. It's worse than that. So everybody's talking about, well, he's up there, in the comments, they're like, he's showing his son how to be a man and all this stuff. Do you know when his son was 12 years old, he hired a prostitute to give his son oral pleasure to make him a man? Now he's on this show to get his son laid. That's some groomer stuff.
It's weird.
It's straight up pedophilia.
I didn't know all of that because I've only ever seen clips that like pop up on Facebook, but I've never actually
If you go to the comments, all these comments about what a great black man he is, what a great black father he is, at least he's there for his son. But the man had his son sexually assaulted at 12.
That's gross.
Right, but that goes back to the plant thing. I think that when we have people like Boosie, whatever his name is, Lil Boosie.
That is Boosie.
I
could still be wrong.
Yeah, B-O-S-S-I-E.
Because when you say Bootsy, that's Bootsy Collins.
Bootsilla, baby.
And there's nothing wrong with Bootsy Collins.
Ain't that a damn thing.
I was just listening to Vanish in Our Sleep the other day. It's a great song.
You are so black.
You know what just makes me think of, because now I'm changing the subject just a tad bit. You know something he says in one of his songs? He says, I'm going to sink my love into your hour. And you know that is a saying that is on a lot of old songs. Now, and I know that I mess up songs for you.
Yeah, because I'm never
sorry,
again.
but there are songs where they just like, baby, I'm gonna sink my love into your hour. Sink your love into your hour. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. Because I'm in the shower, I'm washing my hair, I'm listening, and he says it, I'm gonna sink my love into your hour.
Do you?
Like, I get the gist of what he wants to do, but I don't.
What's the metaphor?
Where's the hour?
Yeah.
That's an hour? Why are we calling it that?
For those of you who don't know, Erika will randomly call up and be like, you know that song you love? Have you ever listened to it?
I listen to lyrics.
Yeah. And it turns out it's a song about
rape. It's a song about sexual violence.
Yeah,
it's a
submission
song.
of women.
Something.
And then after that, every time I listen, I'm all, fast forward. That's half my playlist. Erika has ruined it. So let's go back to death.
I was going to bring it up. I was going to segue nicely through the paid leave bill because you testified about the paid leave bill.
Because my mom at the time.
Right, because your mom is somebody that you needed to take care of because she was suffering from dementia. And sometimes she would be lost, you just leave, and she would just be gone.
And then she always disappeared with a pillowcase and a knife. And I don't know what that was.
Did she tie it with a little stick?
No,
Like
she
a
didn't do that.
hobo?
No,
Oh, man.
my mother would never be a hobo. She was more gangster. When the last time
That's
I
why
found
she was going to cut somebody.
right, the last time I found her up the street, she had her pillow, and it's always her purple pillow. She had her pillow, and it has one of those things how you can open it up to put the pillow in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Little
And
slit.
then you can.
Yeah, and you put the pillow in there.
Oh, in the middle.
Right.
Like a sham.
Right.
That's a sham.
Is that a sham? Okay.
Called a sham.
So, even though I'm gay, I'm still a guy.
See, that's why I'm gayer than you.
You are. So, yeah. So she had her pillow, and I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? And she goes, oh, I don't do that. And I'm like, okay, give me that. Give me that. And I put my hand in there, and I'm like, pull out. And not only did she have a knife, she had one of my good culinary school knives.
Oh, she had a good knife.
Yeah, she'd always find it.
The ones you kept rolled up in. She should have taken the sharpener too.
She took the sharpest,
Well, at least
bestest
she was
knife.
trying to be safe. At least she knew she was going to be out here in these Vegas streets and she would need to take care of herself.
My mom acted like she was thugging it on 63rd Street in 1948. But anyway, yes, I had to take care of her. I had no idea the expense that it took. I had no idea the time it took. I had no idea how you can't go to work. I'd be out and I'd be like, oh, I got to go check
But
on
you
her.
also can't trust.
Nah.
There's not a lot of people you can trust to do the thing you need them to do. And so that's why I was like, this is the story that needs to be told. Woo! So there's a score. Anywho, so talking about what it means to try to trust somebody to care for your loved one, and so then ultimately you end up finding a place for her to be that.
And she died.
And she was comfortable though.
She liked it there.
She did like it there.
She lasted a month and a half.
And then she passed
And
away.
they will not give me back that money.
You can get your money back.
They said no. They said it's right in the small print. But I can joke about this because she was very happy there.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy that she was happy. But yeah, a month and a half later, she was gone. And
So it's been what?
It's been 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay.
So, and she went with no pain. It took less than 5 minutes, they told me. I'm happy for her.
Mm-hmm.
But the business of dying is also, before this happened, I never even heard the word caregiver. And then to find out you are one, and there's no book, there's no manual, people are just like, you're a good son.
As opposed to being what?
Right, my brother. So people constantly tell you you're a good son and you're doing so good. And even when she died, people are like, you did your best and all that stuff. And I want to say, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Yeah, because some days you want to run away.
Oh, God, yeah. God, yeah.
So when I think about that, when I think about the caregiving part, especially when somebody's older or you just know that somebody's going to pass away, right? And you think about like what all that means. Like you're holding all of it, but you're also not allowed to like let any of it go because you got to focus on the person and what's happening there. And then you have all of this stuff to do. You're going to have the bills. You're going to have the forms to fill out. And I remember you telling me about the Medicare, and it was all these different parts, and you didn't know this part from that part, and it felt like you were being taken into different circles, and there was nobody there to sit down and be like, okay, so this is a list of things that you need to do, and these are things you need to look out for.
I will say this. I need to give some shout outs because the people at the coroner's office have been amazing. Clark County coroners have been amazing. They're like, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Don't worry about this. You will not owe for that. You'll get 5 of these. Ask them for more. See if they'll give them to you for free. And it's like, they've been amazing. The people at Archwell, which was her Medicare, her provider for everything, amazing staff. Like, because me, I go right into a situation, I go, look, I don't know how to do anything. And women usually go, oh, okay. And I'm good, It's I'm not gonna lie, it's my superpower.
Can you help me? Y'all, why men aren't shown as like let me get my eyelashes.
I do
Can
it all
you
the time.
help me? I don't know how to do this. Exactly.
I do it all the time. But the people at Archwell were amazing. everybody that I have dealt with along the way in a government type position or in a position of administration or whatever has been amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
But this is all after death.
Well, Archwell was great up and they found the home for me. So I can't say enough good about Archwell. I'm gonna consider her name because I would like people to know this. And the people at the coroner's office, yeah, after death were great. But so my friend around the corner, Perry, just passed. His husband, well, I thought was his husband, 47 years they've been together. His partner doesn't know anything, like not where none of the passwords, because he wasn't taking care of him. Like I took care of my mom. I had to find all the passwords. I had to create things. I had to do stuff.
Yeah.
Alex has done none of this his whole life. And they didn't have the paper on the refrigerator. So the reason I bring this up is we are all going to go through this.
Yeah.
You have got to have just, Laura told me all the time, get insurance, get the power of attorney, get this, get that. The doctor told me my mom was going to live forever. And I was like, oh, okay. I told her, I was like, well, I'm stuck with you. And she goes, yeah, you are. When it happened, I at least was a little, like they asked me for a social security number, I can give it.
Right.
I'm in charge of the bank account, I can handle it. People have got to be more prepared for the end of life.
I'm always amazed at folks who aren't, and I think that
because you're so organized.
I am, but I remember having a conversation with someone about whether or not they had their stuff together, you know, because they had suffered a series of illnesses and what have you, and this is somebody in my past, sort of like their mother or whatever, and so. And I remember her saying to me, I don't need to talk about that sort of thing. I don't need to think about all that. And I was just like, that's really unfair because, you know, you only have one kid and I already know that person is not going to be able to handle all the things. Yeah. And there's so many different aspects of things. Write it down. Just say what you need and say where stuff is or whatever and just have it available because it's helpful. Because it's overwhelming. And so when you talk about the business of death, I just think about funerals in and of themselves. And I know that you aren't doing a traditional funeral for your mom. And I didn't do a traditional funeral for my mother, but I also didn't have the opportunity to do it because I wasn't technically her next of kin because she had a raggedy ass husband. And so there was just nothing there for me that I could even do.
Right.
But so he made decisions and did what he did. And then now she sits on my mantle, you know? And so, but I don't know that she ever talked about it, but she was also one of those people like, oh, you don't talk about death. Like, you don't have to think about that. Or, you know, or you like, it's almost like you're conjuring up things to happen.
Or in my case, I was brought up, don't get in grown folks' business.
There's also that.
Even when I moved in with my mom to take care of her, she still was not giving me the go ahead to be grown. And I don't know if that's a Black thing culturally or if it's an everybody thing, but I find that so many of my white friends are so much more prepared. And I just was not, don't mess in grown folks' business. And so I didn't know anything. Same thing with my father. But my mom took care of, first it was her mother, then my dad, then her aunt. And then she got, right when she was free, she gets sick. But there was never any, let's sit down and talk about this.
So I wonder, not sure if it's a Black thing or any other sort of like cultural thing, and it could be at least partially, but I wonder also if it's more of a socioeconomic thing, because also people who have more money are usually a little bit more willing to talk about finances, finances and what this, that. I think there is a certain class of folks who might be embarrassed if their children knew how much they actually had or didn't have. And so instead of saying that out loud and saying this is how much this cost, this is how much money I got, which is very little, that I think that's hard because I think about that as me as a parent, and when my children were younger and they would talk about money, I do think I was a little bit more cagey about it because I didn't have anything,
But I'm
and I didn't want them
112
to
years
know
old.
just how crappy
Right.
stuff was at the time.
Well, my family had money, so there's no excuse. But my mom always, my dad one time, he called me up. I was living in downtown LA and he's out in West Covina, 20 miles away. And he called me up because you need to come over here. I go over there. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, how do you write a check? I was like, what? He goes, yeah, your mom gave me $20 before she went to Vegas and I need gas. How do you write this check? He had been with her for so long, with her taking care of everything, and she never bothered to tell him anything. He's one of those men. He came home, he handed over the check.
Oh my God, you could write checks for gas.
Right.
Oh my God. You're at the pump. Hold on.
Right.
And the thing is, you also you have to know how to spell out.
And write in cursive your name. Oh, yeah. 1,300.
Right,
Yeah.
1,642, and then 22 cents over 100.
Now imagine if she kept him at that level. Imagine me.
Yeah.
And I bet if she had had a daughter,
She would have told them.
oh, the daughter would be in charge right
I
now.
should have asked.
Yeah, I should have just said, take care. Like
She did like me.
Yeah.
She did like me
So
more than you.
there's, there's just all of that stuff that I plead with people. Please, 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 please. Not so much for myself, but watching what Alex is going through right now, he can't get into his partner's phone. Everything is in there. Let's talk about something else. So right before his partner died, I took him on some errands. It's like the day before he died. And he said to me, he goes, I just want to die. I'm in so much pain. And he goes, but I can't die because there's nobody to take care of Alex. And I was like, okay. And he goes, promise me you'll take care of Alex.
Why didn't he think to tell him all the things then?
Because their relationship was like my mom and my dad. In the sense that one person handled everything.
Right, but if he knew he was leaving, he didn't feel a responsibility to be like, let me write this stuff down so you can have it.
Because he was fighting it. And then the next day he's dead. The very next day. So now I'm responsible for Alex, and I don't mind. I've known them for 30 years, and I understand where Alex is right now. I mean, we're basically on the same corner path. Yeah. But again, you have got to, and it turns out they weren't married after 47 years. You gotta get your stuff down legally. You gotta get your stuff down just administratively. You gotta put the thing on. His neighbor came over, and the first thing she said was, where's the refrigerator paper? And I said, what? And she goes, the refrigerator paper, where everything, all the phone numbers and everything are.
Contacts.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God. My mom had one. So, and she would when she got dementia, she'd say, where's my phone numbers? And she was absolutely right. I had taken a picture, but you gotta have all that stuff because when you don't, it's a mess.
Well, and also if you own a home or anything like that, you gotta.
Alex's name is on nothing. Nothing. And so, literally, he can't prove that he owns anything in the house.
Well, yeah, because they can.
Right.
I mean, there's no common law marriage here.
So.
And is there common law anywhere with homosexual relationships?
I would think in California probably, but I don't know for a fact. Well, remember when we were trying to get gay marriage here, and Carolyn Goodman said, "Well, why can't they just get a contract, and if they break up, sue each other?" Yeah.
Carolyn also wanted us to go back to work during COVID.
This is true.
She sure did.
Yeah. So again, get everything written down. Everything. If you are old, he ain't leaving you. And if he does, you still want to make sure you get half his crap.
Right, you want that pension.
Yeah, so, it's just got to get a hold of everything. I'm still tracking down stuff on my dad to see if he has any sort of pension or anything to help pay for this cremation. And then, the cost of cremation, it started at $7,500. I've got it down now to $1,500. Maybe the county will help me. But they get you with I'm so grieved.
Right, and they're like, you want this silk-lined coffin.
Right, with the velvet from Charlotte O'Hara's curtains. Like, yeah, and why? You're going to put the person in a Krispy Kreme.
But they but that's where like the predatory I think comes in, right? So because you're in a state where you shouldn't even be making decisions at all. They say there are certain spaces that you're in that you just shouldn't be making decisions when you're grieving. So right after someone dies, or right after you had like some tragic, illness or whatever, because our minds are doing a whole lot of work, and then our bodies are doing a lot of work, and so I feel like it can be very predatory because they'll want you to do all the next thing you got an imitation of life funeral
with the horses and everything.
Right, you got Clydesdales coming down the street because you want to send your loved one off a certain sort of way, and they're not even really there.
No, they told me when I told them, look, they said, well, do you want any service? No. Do you want an urn? No. Do you want the? And then finally, what do you want? And I said, as cheap as possible. Do you know? She goes, I'm going to give you a phone number. It's the crematorium across the street. You can deal with them directly. You didn't tell me that the first day.
Right.
You had my mom for 3 days, and
once they realized you wasn't about to come up off nothing.
Get out. It's like a timeshare. You go through room after room after room. It starts at $35,000. By the time you leave, they're like, you want to buy tickets for $25 to go see a show? That's how I felt. Yeah. I go back to just know all the details. Get the power of attorney. Get the guardianship. Get the life insurance.
You don't have life insurance. I've had life insurance. Now, and I'll say this about life insurance, though, because I feel I'm on the fence about life insurance a little bit. Like if you actually have a decent amount of money and you have, a steady income, that if I knew what I knew now, I just would have put money aside every month. And then once I've gotten to a certain amount, I would have invested into a high yield savings account or a CD or something that I could turn over.
Black financial literacy.
Right. So turning it over and then turning it over again, you'd have more liquid cash if you need it. Because right now I've had life insurance for a number of years, and it would be fine if I kill over and die for my children or whomever. But if I needed to take that out for some sort of emergency, it's not, the cash value is like nada, like it just doesn't do anything. And all my children have life insurance policies as well, because I will not be on Facebook talking about a GoFundMe to bury, me or my children. That's not me throwing shade at anybody, because, you got to do what you got to do. But I just can't imagine having to go through that, and then you're out on the corner trying to do car washes.
I was going to say, I would do a car wash before I would do a Facebook GoFundMe. I feel
like I see less of them now. They were a big thing for a while.
I would definitely do that. That's funny. Yeah, the whole thing has been a mess. My mom is still in a drawer somewhere. And it bothers me because she hates being cold, and I know that they're keeping her cold. But I can't afford to go and do it quickly. Now, the county will, so people are telling me now, they go, well, was your mom a donor? She didn't say she was.
It's too late now.
That's what I said. I don't want some...
There's nothing left. Because they can only do it while they're still pumping blood through you.
Evidently, they were willing to, I don't know if they take...
Science, though.
Right.
You could donate her body to science.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. That seems weird to me. But on the other hand, she's not there. But they'll do it for free. But I'm like, I would rather that seems one of those things I'm like...
Yeah, because then they're just taking things out and looking at them.
And she's just laying there forever. Whatever. Like, we need a toenail now. Let's go. Body number 785.
Yeah. No, and I get that, and that would be weird to think about, but also, is it a waste just to put somebody in the ground and could it be helpful?
Do you get finality? Do you get closure if you do that?
What is closure?
Exactly.
I mean, one of the things I said to you, after you told me that, mom was gone, was, welcome to the orphan club, and, I don't think people think about that from the point of view of, we're grown people, right? But we're orphans. There are no parents.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing for me was when my grandparents passed away. So my grandmother passed in September of 2005. And then probably about a month later, my grandfather just went on this really fast decline. And so by close to Halloween, I remember thinking he is just not there. Like I'm talking to him on the phone and he was not there.
Right.
And so January, I'm there and I'm going to see him because they had moved. Because my uncle was doing most of the caregiving at this point. And he wasn't talking at all by this point. He was just sort of sitting there. They'd sit him up in the chair. He was in a home, and he was just sitting there. And I'm like, but he's not in a coma. Like I don't really know what that
Catatonic,
was,
like,
right?
Yeah.
And so I remember talking to him, and I was just telling him about what was going on with. At that time, I think I had 2 kids at the time, but he had only ever met my oldest. And so I'm talking to him about Shay and Sky and all of that. And I found I was like, if you are ready to go, you can go. I will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will be okay if you are ready to go. And then he died like 2 days later. It was like 2 days later. And I remember sitting there thinking like how sad I was, but I still didn't like let it all out. And it's weird sitting in the front row of a funeral because the front row, like for the immediate family, like I never sat in the front row before, and that was really hard. And I did it twice, like back to back.
Did you have to not perform, but everybody's looking? Oh.
A little bit, yes and no, because then there's this thing because like I was very much a daddy's girl when it came to my grandfather, and but he had other grandchildren.
Some we don't know about?
No, that's not.
I thought that's where you were going with this.
No, that's not where I'm going. I'm just saying that, my mother was an only child.
Okay.
And so there's other grandchildren, but I was the closest to them. And so I just mean it more like, they're like my parents more than they were like my grandparents. And so it was more that I think folks were, some people just called them my parents. Your parents, is that and other. And so I think people were wanting to see me cry more, maybe. I'm not a person who likes to cry for other people.
Yeah.
And I save that for the shower. Yeah. It's great to shower. And so
real white girl.
Then a few years later, a really close cousin of mine passed away who was older, really close to my grandparents and all of that. And I think I broke down more there, but that was because I realized I was getting closer and closer to there being less people who knew me. And so then when my mother died in 2016, I didn't know how I felt because we didn't have a great relationship. We were not close at all. We were estranged to a large degree. And so I had to put it on the shelf because it was 2016, it was an election year, and I was working.
I remember,
and I was working hard. And so I had to put my feelings on the shelf. And also there was just so many things happening. And I didn't know what to do with it. Because I also didn't know how to grieve because my children didn't know her. They had never met her.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot, right? And then around, I think it was like December, George Michael died. George Michael died, and my mother loved George Michael. Like my mother loved George Michael. And I was like, oh, my mom would be so sad that George Michael died. And then I'm like, oh, she's dead. And so then you're like, what the fuck, right? And so it's all this stuff. And so I didn't know what to do with my feelings. It's hard to know what to do with feelings with somebody that you are not around on a day-to-day basis or even a monthly basis, right? Because my day-to-day didn't change at all. But now I'm in this space where there are less and less people who even knew what I was like as a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, or what I looked like when I didn't have any front teeth, or or could tell some stupid, embarrassing story about something I may have done.
I've got a scar that my mom's the last my Auntie Vivian is probably the last person who knows anything about my scar.
Right.
And so.
That feels weird.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's like, I'm like, I know you. You know me, but I don't. The history is not there.
Yeah.
You can't reminisce on something, and it's like, I don't know. It feels like something is just like falling through the cracks of your fingers
and
or
plus,
something.
People want you to cry. They want you to grieve. They want you to.
They do. I think it's so weird that people want you to cry. Yeah,
because remember, I told you. Okay, so I cried when I told you because I told you right after I found out. You're the first person I told, but. I've had a couple times where I go, and then I pull it together, or it just stops. I don't want to say I pull it together, it just stops. But, and I've said this to you, I feel like a bad person because I'm not grieving like people expect you to grieve. I'm not throwing myself on oh, that's my mama. I'm not doing all that. And I don't feel the need to do that. And sometimes I feel like,
It's
am I a bad
performative.
person? Yeah, am I a bad person because I'm not doing that for other people? You know, because I get relatives who call me all the time and they're like, how are you doing? And I almost feel bad when I go, I'm fine, I just got from work. And they're like, no, what I meant was
Right.
about your mother. And I'm like, oh yeah, huh?
Well, grief is different for everybody, and I think people have to give people space for what grief
Yeah,
actually looks like.
I've been to one funeral in my entire life. That was with my friend Christopher, who died on the plane with Aaliyah. And it was such a horrible experience that I'm not going to another one.
I've
But
been to probably 100 funerals.
no, I've never.
I used to go with my grandfather because my grandfather was adamant about if you could go to the funeral, you go. Like that you do, like
Show
you
that
show respect, right? So he always went, and I realized as he was getting older that so many people around him were just dying, like his friends,
Yeah.
his cousins, his family, whatever. So he always went to funerals, and I went because I got to put on a pretty velvet dress. So it was not the same.
It's a fashion moment.
It was a fashion moment, and then I would do all the things like I would make sure I got the obituary for my grandma. I would go look at the body, all that.
Really?
I remember touching some of them. I'd be like, I don't know why. But it didn't, these weren't people that I knew.
Right, no.
For the majority of people, like I may have remembered aunt somebody from somewhere.
Right.
But I probably met them once.
So my generation of gays were right after AIDS. Like, I knew a couple of people whom I didn't know them, but I had seen them who, on the streets or whatever, who were dying. But my generation was right when the cocktails started coming out. So it was more of an HIV thing than an AIDS thing. HIV you lived from. But I would talk to older queens who would tell me that they went to 200 funerals. They went to, so many memorials in 1 week that they had to take off work for the week because people were just, it was like COVID, but much more personal. And so I didn't have to go through that because they were going for like their friends from the bars, exes, all this stuff. So I just never went to any of that. And my family, my mom and dad just weren't the type, And plus, also, the people who were around at the time, they weren't dying. They were all probably, they seem old now, but they were probably in their 30s and 40s.
So funny how what old is.
Yeah. So it's only now, again, that I'm seeing people dying, 2 in 2 weeks. And I'm like, is this the new norm? I visited a friend last night, I took him some food. He just barely didn't die from cancer. And I said to him last night, he knew the friend who died, and he says, man, I just can't believe he's gone. And then he told me about a friend of his who's dying. And I was like, are we at that age now? Where, he was so young, and he's 81,
Yeah.
like, are we there?
Well, and then what does that mean for does that change? Do we become desensitized to it a little bit? It's like, oh, such and such passed. Oh, okay.
I don't think we'll ever be like our grandmothers. Oh, child, no. Oh, no. Girl, you barely knew her. But, Miss Tally, oh.
But I think the weird part about death for me is just how it's this final thing that really affects you, but the world around you is still moving, right? And so I remember when my uncle called me and told me that my mother had died. I was driving, and he's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm driving. He was like, well, let me know when you get where you're going. And I'm like,
don't ever say that.
I'm like, why? And I'm like, okay, well, and I think I was going to Mingo's, to the restaurant I was going to work, I think. And I just wanted a place to sit down on my computer and work. But then I realized it was Sunday. And so it wasn't open. So I pulled off to the side on that little side street in the Arts District where that cat is, that statue of
First
that.
Street.
Yes. And I pulled off right there. And I'm like, okay, well, I've stopped. And so then he told me. And then I was like, oh. Well, what? Like, what do you mean? And I was like, okay. And then I wasn't connecting the dots. Like I was just sitting there like, so what does that mean? But I remember looking at the cat. I'm staring at that cat. And so every time I see the cat, I think about that's what I think about. And so I think a little tongue sticking out or whatever. It's a cute little big giant statue.
Right.
But I was just staring at it. And then I was like, okay. And then I got the phone and I called a friend. I called my friend, Erika, and told her, because she's probably one of the few people that I feel like I could talk to and tell that would understand that I didn't know what I was feeling. Because she knew that the relationship was so like what it was, that it wasn't like, oh, da da da.
I don't think I knew you had a mom until she died.
I mean, like I said, my children didn't meet her.
Yeah.
And so then I drove home, right? And as I'm driving home, which I didn't live far, the thing I was thinking about, and I'm looking around and I'm like, things are still happening. The lights are still turning red. You know, the same homeless man is yelling at people. Like,
but your world has just
right. My life is completely different at this point. At this point now, I am an orphan, and my life is different. But everything else around me, it's just moving on the way it does. And the same thing will happen when I'm not here. I won't be here, and somebody will be sad. Somebody will have feelings. Somebody might be like, dang, about time that bitch gone. Like, whatever it is, but there will still be a hockey game. Somebody will still be out. Someone will get married. The things will just keep happening. And it's so weird to try to grasp hold of how you are feeling when life is just moving around.
Ain't nobody irreplaceable. You know, like, it's just that way. To the urn, to the left, like,
to the urn.
Yeah, I mean, and we all have to do it.
We got the memo that we're all gonna go. So we do need to prepare in a certain amount of ways. So I did make it a list of things that I want to do this year, like set up a trust, because you have to have more than a will. Like, you have to be able to do X, Y, Z.
You need to have a little money set aside for when I die, so that we don't go through this. So make sure that you have at least $1,500 in your Derek fund. Because I probably still won't have it together.
Do you have life insurance?
No.
Okay, geez.
No, I don't.
As you're having this whole conversation, telling everybody else what they need to do.
And that's why I'm sharing this information. Don't be a Derek, you know? Because honestly, I'm gonna need you to put, Sandy Eddy, who died, she told her friends Susie and Fred that they needed to always keep a little money aside for me. Just in case.
That poor Derek.
Yeah, that just in case.
I thought I was just in charge of making sure people came dressed well.
That, and well, Christine has a list of people who are not allowed in, or who I hate and I want them to be there.
You want to make sure they show.
Yeah. I want them to do the performative. I'm so sad.
Just make sure no one puts me on a T-shirt with wings behind me and a little like an airbrush stairwell.
The person who did that is exactly the person that I don't want in my funeral front row. That's exactly who that person
Just
is.
don't put any angel wings on me and talk about that I've ascended to.
No, we'll do it with the spray paint.
No spray paint. No airbrush, no T-shirts, none of that.
I just want, you got the playlist, you can do that, and you handle the food.
Am I cooking?
No.
Okay.
To put out a charcuterie board, something like that, but no bruschetta. No bruschetta. And, just make sure that...
If I saw bruschetta at your funeral, I would flip out. I really would.
I hate bruschetta.
I would turn into Shirley MacLaine.
I want lasagna. I want macaroni and cheese. I don't want any wings. I think wings are tacky.
Lasagna, macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cheese.
Stouffer's.
Stouffer's lasagna?
Stouffer's lasagna, Stouffer's macaroni. You don't have to go out of your way.
I would never do that. You know I'm going to make it from scratch.
You don't have to.
I know, but I can't. You can't leave like that. That's awful.
A lot of Pepsi. Yeah, keep it.
A lot of Pepsi. That'd be big gulps for everybody.
That's it. Everybody gets a big gulp. That's it. Everybody gets it's a super big gulp. Everybody gets what? It's 1/3 Mountain Dew, 1/3 Dr. Pepper, and 1/3 whatever they have that's red.
Oh my God, that's what's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Mountain Dew and Mountain Dew and Dr. Pepper.
Mountain Dew, Dr. Pepper, and anything red.
It's like Fanta.
Fanta. It could even be the red water, whatever, but it has to be red.
Hawaiian Punch.
That would be excellent. Oh my God. Yeah.
That sounds awful.
No, it's good. Everybody I do it for. I've had exes who still do it to this day. Because mine's them on me. And on that note,
Okay. Yeah. Before we stop talking, I really want to just. Your mom was a great person.
oh, she's the best.
So
She's
fashionable.
the best.
So funny. And so I want to make sure we are at this moment dedicating this moment to Barbara.
Barbara Carol Washington, known as BC, known as Carol to the family. I have to tell the Europe story. So when I was 6 years old, my mom started working at Pan Am. I think it was 5 she started working there. So by the time I was 6, she got her travel benefits. My dad was working, so she decided to take me to Europe. My very first flight was a 707 from Chicago to Shannon, Ireland, because you used to have to stop and refuel, and then go to Paris. My grandfather went with us. So when we went to London, no, went Shannon to London. And when we got to London, it was October 31st, 1969. And I know this because they all went out and I sat in my grandfather was supposed to babysit me. But once my mom and her friends went out, he snuck out. So I sat in this.
Your grandfather snuck out.
Yeah. So I sat in this, it was an old fashioned hotel. I had to have a step to get up into the bed. It was in the gables. It was so Mary Poppins.
It's a hotel?
Yeah, it was a hotel back in the day. So on the radio was a witch. And she was talking all about how she was a witch and she was a good witch and all this stuff. And so the next day, my mom was like, did you sleep well? I said, yeah, I listened to the witch. And she's all, what witch? And I said, blah, blah, blah. And she turns to my grandfather, she goes, you let him listen to a witch? And he was like, and she goes, were you there? And he's like, well, So the next day, I had said during the day, I wanted some chocolate cake. So my grandfather, when my mom and her friends left, he comes in the room and he goes, McClanahan, want to go get some chocolate cake? I was like, yay! Well, finding a piece of chocolate cake in the middle of the night, other than Vegas, is not possible. So we would walk all over and we would go to this place and they had a machine that if you put coins in, if you got it right, the coins would come out. Like it was just you put a coin in and hopefully it would do this.
Slots?
Like that, sort of.
Like so you were.
You didn't have to pull anything, though. So anyway, and then my grandfather would disappear and I would be with these ladies with these big chests, which is probably where I got it from. So they'd have big chests and then he'd come back later. And so
you were at the casino with the brothel.
Turns out we're at the casino. Well, then we go to Paris. And every night we would go looking for chocolate cake. But in France, they don't have just chocolate cake. Everything's got orange or some, And so, but
Cream de mint.
Right. So for like 3 days, we went out looking for a chocolate cake every night. Well, we kept going to this place, and there were so many pretty women, and we would hang out and all this stuff. And so my grandfather would leave me. And oh, you're so cute. I was adorable. So anyway, at the hotel, they called me the movie star because my mom always had me in custom clothes. I was cute. So years and years and years later, right? So we went to Rome. We were having dinner one night. And I said, are we going to go look for a chocolate cake? And my mom from across the table goes, no, you're not going to look for chocolate cake. And you're not looking for chocolate cake in Chicago either. And I was like,
Because that was code word for the hose.
Years and years and years later, I'm being nosy at my mom's house, and I see they used to have back in the day these long Eiffel Tower postcards. And I start reading it. And she goes, hey, this is to my dad. Hey, we're having a really good time. Derek's loving it. And he goes, but Bob is on my shit list. That's her father. She goes, so here's what happened. My mom says we come down to the lobby and they're all the movie stars here. And my mom goes, he wants to go to the pig place. And they're like, the pig place? And she goes, yeah, he says that my father took him to the pig place and he wants to go back. Where's the pig place? And they start laughing. So they said, the pig place, you mean the pigal? And they were like, yeah. So in the postcard, my mom's all, Bob was pimping Derek out. So she confronted him because the Pigalle is the prostitute neighborhood. So he was taking me there. They were like, who's your little son? And he's like, oh, that's my grandson. I'm telling you, oh, you're so nice. Let me come give you something for free. So my mom says in the thing, I cussed him out spending my money on hoes. And he said to me, I didn't pay for him. And I said, well, what do you mean you didn't pay for him? You didn't have no money, the money I gave you. And he says, they thought Derek was cute, so they gave it to me. So,
You're European pimping.
back in the day, I was bait.
Did you ever get the chocolate cake though?
No, never. And my mom said to me,
That's so sad.
when I asked her about the postcard, she was like, and I always wondered why you had a pocket full of coins. Because he tried to take my money.
Because all the little...
Yeah, all the tricks I was turning. And real quick, my mom came from a very interesting family. Her mother used to babysit me when my mom went to work, and we would watch All My Children, General Hospital, her stories, and I'd sit in her lap.
I love General Hospital.
And then she'd get up at the end of General Hospital and she would say to me, help me get my girdle on. And I'd help her get her girdle on. And then we would go to Jack's back door around the corner. Now, I was a little fat kid by then, and she had pound cake. I love pound cake. And she'd go, don't tell anybody, eat pound cake. Okay, so we'd go to Jack's back door, and my grandmother was sort of a floozy. So the guys would give me hands full of dimes, and I would play the jukebox. So again, many years later, I said something about Jack's back door. My mom goes, what do you know about Jack's back door? And I used to DJ there. And she goes, what? And I told her. She goes, that woman always told me that somebody sitting out on the porch was smoking, and that's why you smell like smoke every night.
Not because you over at the bar.
I was at the bar. I was DJing at the bar. So my mom gave me the coolest life.
Your grandparents apparently also gave you the coolest life.
Yeah, my grandfather didn't like anybody but me, but McClanahan. But yeah, so when I think about my mom, I think of her taking me to Paris when I was 6. And just everything that I think about. My father used to say to me, get a job at the gas company. You get benefits, and before you know it, you'll be retired. And my mom would look and she'd go, don't listen to him. Go have fun.
Right, go be fabulous.
Right.
And I think that's the best advice ever.
Here's to Barbara Carol Washington.
Here's to Barbara.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Say goodnight, Ethel.
Good night, Ethel. I think we are good.